Good evening. At this time, if you would, please silence your cell phones and be advised these proceedings are being recorded. If you desire to address the City Council during the meeting, please complete a request to speak form available at the front entrance and present it to the City Clerk. Speakers will be called upon at the appropriate time, and each person is allowed 3 minutes speaking time. This time I'll call to order the regular City Council meeting for the City of Grand Terrace, February 25th, 2020. Our invocation tonight will be given by Pastor Patrick Bauer of the Brook Church, and our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Lieutenant Doug Wolf of the San Bernardino County Sheriff. Please stand for invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. I thank you for inviting me to come and pray. I enjoy doing that. I often think ahead of time what I would say at this moment. My thoughts went back to the time I was a child and wondering about my relationship with God and kind of asking the question, God, do you know who I am? Of course, the answer is yes, he knows. But I think David said it best. He wrote in Psalm 139, "O Lord, you have examined my heart and you know everything about me. You know when I stand up and when I sit down. You know my thoughts even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel. You know everything I do. You know what I'm going to say before I even say it, Lord. You go before me, you follow me, you place your hand, a blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand." And though we don't understand it, we thank God for it. And so, as we bow our hearts and our minds and our beings before the Lord tonight, we ask his blessing upon us. We ask that he would direct us. We would ask that he would fill us with great wisdom. And we thank him in advance for all he's going to do. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Bauer. Thank you, Lieutenant Wolf. And tonight we will be closing in memory of longtime Grand Terrace resident Edna Best, who, among many other things, was a loving mother, grandmother, great-grandmother. She was a member of our women's club, and she was a volunteer in many other ways that I'm sure I don't even know in this city. And so we will close in her memory tonight. Please keep her family in your thoughts and prayers. Madam City Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Allen.
Here.
Councilmember Hussey.
Present.
Councilmember Robles.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson.
I am here.
Mayor McNabo.
Present.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, we have special presentation tonight. Lieutenant Doug Wolf of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department will be leaving the city of Grand Terrace to go to places elsewhere. So we have a commendation for him. Lieutenant Doug Wolf, whereas Doug Wolf began his career with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department in 1991 as a deputy sheriff trainee while attending the Sheriff's Academy. Upon completion, he promoted to Deputy Sheriff 1 and was assigned to the Corrections Division at the Glen Helen Rehabilitation Center for 3 years. And whereas in 1994, Doug was promoted to Deputy Sheriff 2 and assigned to Patrol Division at both Morongo Basin Station and Central Station for 3 years. And whereas in 1997, Doug was assigned to the Employee Resources Division in 2002, he was assigned to Corrections Division at the West Valley Detention Center. And whereas from 2003 to 2004, Doug was assigned to patrol divisions at the Morongo Basin and Highland Stations. Then in 2005, he promoted to Detective of Criminal Intelligence Division. And whereas from 2008 to 2009, Doug was again promoted to Sergeant and assigned to the Correction Division at Central Detention Center for a year. Then his assignment moved to Patrol Division at Big Bear Station and then to the training center. And whereas in 2014, Doug received another promotion to lieutenant and assigned to Central Station, allowed by his new assignment in 2020, transferring to the Court Services Division. Now, therefore, I, Darcy McNabo, Mayor of the City of Grand Terrace, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby thank and commend Lieutenant Doug Wolf for his hard work, dedication, and loyalty to the City of Grand Terrace, its citizens, and its community, and it's signed this 25th day of February 2020. If you would, sir. If you would like to come to the lectern and say a few words, and then we will have a nice little photo op and present you with this.
Good evening. Well, thank you for those wonderful words. They were awesome. I remember when I started Central Patrol 4.5 years ago, then Captain Steve Dorsey asked, hey, do you want to do patrol operations for Loma Linda or Grand Terrace? And it was a no-brainer for me. I grew up here in this little town back in the 70s, lived on Brentwood, went to all the schools with the exception of the high school. So I've ridden my bike all over this town as a kid. So, of course, I just raised my hand for Grand Terrace. And immediately I was welcomed by, of course, council and city staff, the city manager. They really embraced my presence on the team, and I so appreciate it. It really was a crash course on city politics and the working components of a contract city, which I had never been part of. So I appreciate all of the patience, Mr. Duffy, for helping me understand the things that were going on here. I think the city staff has changed immensely, with the exception of Cynthia there. She's the last man standing. So always a pleasure working with you, Cynthia. Council, you guys are fantastic. I really appreciate how much heart and soul you put into the decisions that are being made here in Grand Terrace. You truly do have your best intentions in mind in these decisions. Whether you agree with them or not, you can always look at it and say, I get it. I get what they're doing. Then the residents of Grand Terrace, another great aspect of this city. Everybody is very much embracing of some of the needs of the patrol operations that we've worked so hard for the last couple of years, trying to get that extra deputy, the meetings and things that we would do to encourage the city residents' input. It was amazing how many people would show up to those things, and the positive things that were said about the sheriff's department, and of course the need for the additional deputy sheriff. So, and I really got to commend the city council for approving or continuously approving the overtime to fill that position. I know someday I'm hoping that everybody still pushes forward to make that a full-time position, but in the meantime, this truly does help us serve the citizens of Grand Terrace better, as well as making it a little safer environment for our folks out there. So thank you very much for everything. I've made some dear friends here, and let's all please keep in touch.
we have a gift for you also. There's a gift for you, and I think you're going to need to open that in front of all of us.
Oh, okay.
It's a bunny.
Oh, look at that.
Something you can wear to court when you go to work there and it's cold.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I'll wear this with pride.
Thank you. Thank you for your service to our city. All right, item B is the reordering or additions or removal of items from the agenda. Do we have anything to reorder or remove?
We do not, Mayor.
Mr. Duffy, thank you. All right, so we'll move to the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial.
Madam, I'm
Yes.
sorry. We were going to take a recess after the gift for cake.
Oh, really?
I apologize, I thought it was on your script. So under.
All right, can we go through, can we hold cake until after public comment?
Of course.
Will you stay? Yes. All right. So let's go to the consent calendar. Items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by City Council at one time without discussion. Any council member, staff member, or citizen may request removal of an item from the consent calendar for discussion. Are there any requests to remove an item from the consent calendar? All right. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Motion by Council Members Robles, second by Council Member Allen. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with Council Members Allen, Hussey, and Robles voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Wilson voting yes, and Mayor McNabo voting yes.
All right, thank you. We'll move to public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items not appearing on the regular agenda. Because of restrictions contained in California law, the City Council may not discuss or act on any item not on the agenda, but may ask staff to briefly respond to statements made or ask a question for clarification, and may request a matter be agendized for a future meeting. Do we have a request to speak during this time? Thank you. Start with Jeremy Rivera.
Good evening, City Council. First and foremost, I wanted to give Mr. Duffy a compliment. Those don't usually come from me to Mr. Duffy, but he's been working on a big project and issue this week with me and been in close contact, and we're still working on the issue, but I know it's in good hands and will be resolved, and I'll share more later when it's done. I also want to talk about our streets. Our streets are in disrepair. And we had phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and I saw phase 1 happen, but I haven't seen phase 2 happen, and I was told in November we're going to start working on our streets. So for this physical year, from July 1st till June 30th of 2020, are we going to make any street repairs this year? Because all I see is my potholes on Van Buren getting filled in. And our streets, I drive a Prius, so, I fill every pothole and every bang, and and you talk to people in town, and that's usually the first thing that comes out of their mouth when they say, "Hey, what can we do in the city?" And I listen to a lot of you guys make your comments every city council meeting, and then I thought, well, what have you done in our city? You guys go to all these conferences and seminars and all this wonderful thing, and the train's coming in Redlands, and it's hydrogen. Well, that's great for them, but what about Grand Terrace? And then you talk to one of the assembly members, well, I got you $3 million for your parks. Well, give me $3 million for my roads. And, those are some major concerns. And one other issue I really have, and maybe I'm doing it wrong, I tried about a year ago, but it's really hard for somebody to get something on the agenda. I'm a citizen, I should be able to place something on the agenda if it's the 14 days out from when the agenda is published. And when I ask for 2 or 3 items to be placed on the agenda, they're like, oh, okay, well, it's got to go through the city manager. He vets them, and then they get placed on the agenda. So what is the process for a citizen of the city to get something placed on the city council's agenda? That's one of my questions. If it could be answered, I'd deeply appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. And I'll ask city staff, Public Works to get with Mr. Rivera on the roads and Ms. City Clerk to get with Mr. Rivera on how to put something on the agenda. Our next speaker is Sherry Fleischman.
Good evening. This is a tall podium. My name is Sherry Fleischman, and I came to introduce myself to city staff and the audience that's here tonight. I am the new interim coordinator for the Grand Terrace Senior Center, and I invite all of you to come. We have a lovely breakfast with Sherry on Wednesday mornings at 9 o'clock. And lunch is served every day at 11:30, Monday through Friday. And I welcome anybody to come, especially city individuals. It's my goal while I'm here to promote the senior center, to bring in additional activities and community members, and to hopefully draw in new members as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fleischman. I appreciate you coming and introducing yourself. And it sounds like you're going to have a great time at our senior center, and they're going to have a great time there with you. Our next speaker is Bobby Forbes.
Good evening. I'd like to thank Lieutenant Wolf for your time, and we will follow through to try and get another deputy. Everyone that's been working on it, and I hope to get some more people on board that will continue that, and maybe in a couple of years we'll have it, if not sooner. And I would like to say it's been quite interesting having the roundabout open. I've had 2 close calls. I've seen a couple of incidents where people have had accidents, but by themselves, not with other vehicles. And I know it's the chatter on our local Facebook page, but I think everybody needs to slow down and pay attention until the other guy gets used to it. I have to go through there at least 5 times a day, and when I leave my driveway, I really do consider going the other way, but I find it interesting to see how everybody's getting through the roundabout. I'm glad to have the project done. It was interesting to watch it, and I look forward to how it's going to develop and benefit our community, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the last request to speak at this time. So we will recess for 7 minutes for cake. All right, we will begin with our city council communications. Generally, the city council gives direction to staff to carry out programs throughout our city, and we approve a budget every year that allows them to use that money for those programs. City council communications are for the purpose of communicating with fellow council members and the city residents on the other boards and commissions that we represent the city, serving on those boards and commissions. So our city council communications allow council members to talk about where they've been representing our city. We will start with Councilmember Jeff Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. Since the last meeting that we had, I've attended a few events for the city. I guess the purpose of our reports is to make sure we report on how we're spending our taxpayer money wisely. Yeah. So since the last meeting, the first thing I attended here in our city since our last meeting was that great little car show that happened on February 15 across the street from Woody's. To all you, Johan, and all y'all out there that are listening, Ed Giroux and all who brought your cars out on Saturday for us to put our fingerprints on and ooh and all over, we thank you for keeping Grand Terrace a great part of this community, great community. So on February 19, I attended the community cabinet meeting for the Colton Joint Unified School District. at Joe Baca Middle School in Rialto. And Board President Pat Haro introduced our new superintendent, Dr. Frank Miranda, and he spoke about his family and background as a first-generation American, and he also spoke about his vision for leading the school district forward into the future. The next day, on February 20, I, along with all my fellow council members and Planning Commissioner Giroux, we attended the grand opening of the new grocery outlet store, and I think we can all agree that Eric and Priscilla Santillan have brought a welcome addition to our community. And I just want to take a moment to thank the property owner for all those renovations that are being undertaken. Looks great, and the new facades on the north side look really good. I look forward to when the east-facing side is complete, and be a nice place at our city's crossroads, I believe. There is two things I'm going to ask my city council members right now to consider, since this is the time to do that. That's a letter of support for Assembly Bill 2121. The reason what made me think about this is when Mayor Pro Tem Wilson brought up the subject of the traffic and the speed limits in Grand Terrace. So there's an Assembly Bill 2121 before the legislature, and so California relies on an outdated law to set speed limits, and a task force has recommended giving cities more flexibility to slow speeds for safer streets. Assembly Bill 2121, which is the California Traffic Safety Program, will offer cities a method to be able to set speed limits lower if traffic engineering studies can justify it. And so I just want to ask my fellow council members to join me in sending an official letter of support for this Assembly Bill so that we can have more control over our speed limits and still allow our law enforcement to be able to do their job. Senate Bill 1383 is the Organic Waste Reduction Act. How are we helping our residents prepare to comply with Senate Bill 1383? It would not be fair for us to impose this regulation, and we will be the ones required by the state to impose this regulation on our residents without trying to at least provide them with all the education necessary. This is the year, this year is the year that we have to reduce organic waste disposal by 50% in our landfills. And in 5 years, it has to be reduced by 75% from 2014 levels. And by 2025, we also have to recover 20% of the food waste, the edible food waste that we throw out, and return it for human consumption. And this is a law that we, the city, will be forced to impose upon our residents. And so I think it would be prudent if we start finding out from Burtech or whoever our provider is going to be, you know, what are we doing to help encourage our residents to go through to dispose of the organic solid waste properly. We have a lot of multiple family residents, and it's very inconvenient to go through this. It can be a nasty mess for them and very discouraging. So we need to, Burtech and the city needs to come together and work with educating our residents. Thank you. And I just want to let the people on the west side of our town know we are aware of the project that's going in on Colton land, the warehouse project. We've been aware of that. We are opposed to, I am personally opposed to it. I know that I've spoken with Colton council members. They're opposed to it. So the folks on the west side should know that we do have your best interest at heart. And if you ever call us, we will respond. At least I will. You can send me a message. I will answer you right away and get a resolution. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Councilmember Bill Hussey.
Nothing at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sylvia Robles.
Yes, I just want to mention two things. I did also attend the grand opening of Grocery Outlet. It's a very sorely needed, long overdue project for that vacant space. I went the following day to shop, and I will be a regular customer. And there's some things that are taxable, like we bought an umbrella, and the parking lot's very crowded, so that's going to be good for our city. And I just also want to mention my condolences to the family of Edna Best. When I first joined the Women's Club some 15 years ago, I got to know her very well. Edna was a very elegant woman, had this very thick bob gray hair, was an avid reader, and introduced me to some books, and she was a great servant for this community via the Women's Club, and she will be sorely missed, and I sincerely have all my sympathies to the family. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Doug Wilson.
I just also want to echo the comments about the grocery outlet store and the grand opening. It has breathed a breath of fresh air into that particular corner, and it is just one of several projects that we have on the board, but that doesn't diminish the importance of what it is, because we need anchors, and anchors are really important for any community to thrive. So far as Councilman Allen's mention of AB 2121, I did read that, and you're right. It's a good first step. I think probably about 2 years ago, I did a little exploratory with the Assemblywoman, Reyes, and talked about, where are we going to get the funding, and I continue to beat this drum. Where are we going to get the funding that once everything happens at the regional level and it gets dumped onto our streets, what do we do? Because all that traffic has to go someplace, and it goes on our streets, and, we were not receiving the amount of funding that we needed to be able to maintain our roadways. And so, question perfectly poised by the public, where's our next volley of road repair? We have done some stuff. We plan to do more stuff, and Public Works will get a hold of you. But the more important aspect of it is that we're extremely conscious of where the money flow is to be able to sponsor these things. And I think this idea, when they're talking about AB 2121 in a nutshell, well, what it is the ability for us to control our own fate. Because what they have done in the past, what most traffic engineers have done in the past, is they've reversed engineered what the speed limits are. So in other words, if you observe a bunch of, speed on a particular road, then they look at it and say, well, that seems like it's okay. 50 miles an hour is the way it works. Then we'll, maybe we'll trim it down to 45, but that looks okay. No bueno for us, because unfortunately, by the time they start, really throttling up, they're already at 50, and they're about to hit the city limits, and not only the traffic and the noise and the circulation problems that are equated with that. And I've been a huge proponent for the idea of looking at our overall traffic situation, and we have that on, we are scheduled to have that on agenda. Then we will know what we have to address the best to get the very best situation out of our program. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And I will save my report for next meeting. We'll move on to public hearings. We have one tonight to speak on a public hearing item. Please fill out a request to speak form and give it to the city clerk. Each person will be allowed 3 minutes to address the city council. If you challenge in court any action taken concerning a public hearing item, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at public hearing described in this notice or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. We will proceed in the following manner: presentation of agenda item, written communication received, city council, questions of staff and staff comments. Public hearing will be opened. Applicant will have time for comments. There will be oral testimony from the public, applicant's rebuttal if necessary, and then the public hearing will be closed and city council will deliberate. The applicant will not be limited to 3 minutes time when they speak. We have one item tonight, as I said, which is prioritization of funding recommendations for community development block grants. Some people call them CDBG. I don't, because I can't say those letters without mixing them up. And these are funds for program year 2020, 2021. And so Set to tell us about this at this time is our Planning and Development Services Director, Steve Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor McNamara and council members. This item will be presented by Todd Nagasaki, Management Analyst.
Mr. Nagasaki.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mayor McNamara, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council. Todd Nagasaki, Management Analyst. This is a public hearing as indicated by the mayor for the 2020-2021 program year. The staff report promotes our 2030 vision statement, a place where residents can enjoy quality of life that fosters pride and engaged community, in that the CDBG program funds community programs that benefit Grand Terrace residents, and supports goal number 4, develop and implement successful partnerships. The CDBG program is a federal program that is intended to benefit low, moderate income persons, fund programs that eliminate blight or meet an urgent need. CDBG guidelines specify that cooperating cities receiving less than $150,000 in grant allocation are restricted to 4 programs. So 4 public service projects can be funded. Our annual allocation from the county is $56,934. And our unprogrammed funds balance is $16,293. The unprogrammed funds can only be used for construction projects. Last year for the 2019-2020 program, the City Council made the recommendations shown on this slide. In the staff report, Table 1 in your packets, it was revised to show the combined Family Services Association projects for the Senior Center, Coordinator and Nutrition positions, into one program that we had last year. So that brings our total to 4 programs. And we have one unprogrammed fund project. That is for the City of Grand Terrace, ADA doors for the city interior. And that was for last year's 2019-2020 funding. For this 2020-2021 program year, the county forwarded to the city 6 applications that met the guidelines for the program. The City of Grand Terrace, from those applications that we see on the slide here, we have the San Bernardino County GT Library Literacy Education, funding requested $10,000. We have our Family Services Association for our Senior Nutrition Program for $10,000. Our Family Services Association Senior Center Coordinator position, funding requested of $50,000. And the Rec Center for youth classes, workshops, camp activities, and scholarships for $15,000. The Girl Scouts of San Gorgonio Council, Classroom to Career Training and Mentorship Program for $4,000. And the City of Grand Terrace ADA Doors City Hall Restrooms Program. And that's separate from the 4 recommended programs that were mentioned, will be funded through through unprogrammed funds. The total requested amount is $102,000. The allocation for the 4 programs for our annual allocation is $56,934, leaving a difference between the recommended funding, the requested funding, and our allocation of $34,372. The 2020-2021 funding recommendations that I have on the slide here tonight, we have the San Bernardino County Grand Terrace Library for the literacy education, Our recommendation is the $10,000 shown in the far right column. The Family Services Association Senior Nutrition Program for $10,000. And the Senior Center Coordinator position funded at $25,000. This is consistent with our prior year's recommendation of $25,000 with the funding requested of $50,000. The Rec Center for youth classes, workshops, and activities, our recommendation is $7,934. This is actually an $800 increase from our prior year's funding. And the Girl Scouts of San Gorgonio Council, with a funding request of $4,000, we're recommending the full $4,000. That's a $500 increase from the prior year, bringing our total for our annual allocation to $56,934. And lastly, our own program funds. The City of Grand Terrace is recommending for an ADA door project for the restrooms that are adjacent to the council chambers. And that's $13,000, and that comes from our own unprogrammed funds balance. That concludes my presentation, and I can respond to any questions
All right, thank you.
council may have.
Before we get into council questions, I'll ask if there's any written communication that's been received on this item.
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so I have questions from Councilmember Allen.
Thanks, Mayor. Mr. Nagasaki, so my packet pages probably won't coordinate with yours, so I'll just ask the question. In the when the city council recommends funding, it says that they can recommend up to 4 projects. Now, is it 4 projects or 4 applicants? Because there's 5 projects on that screen, and I'm just kind of wondering about that.
So the clarification is the county recommends technically 4 activities, and what we had done in the prior year was combine the senior nutrition and the senior center coordinator programs under one program. Activity is what we called it. So so while we have a total of 5 projects, 5 programs, we're only recommending 4 activities with the FSA programs combined as one.
Okay. Did we just decide to delete a name off the chart here and leave the chart? It's a little bit confusing because it shows 5 projects. I appreciate your explanation, but a better slide would have worked with it, and I wouldn't have had to ask a question. Thanks.
I see. Sorry about that.
Mr. City Manager?
Yes, Mayor, just a point of clarification. In terms of the number 5, the ADA doors at City Hall, those are the doors in between the library and City Hall. And it's not restrooms. It's near the restroom, but it's not the restroom doors. It is actually the doors going into City Hall. Just wanted to clarify that.
Mayor Pro Tem?
While I have the city manager's attention in relation to this, what's an unprogrammed fund? I mean, I like acronyms just like everybody else, but does that mean free?
No, what happened is over the course of time, when money's left on the table from previous years, they then redistribute those monies. And so our portion of the allocation is called unprogrammed funds and can only be used for construction activities.
Councilmember Allen?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to ask City Manager, so if that doesn't refer to restrooms, how are we providing ADA access to the restrooms?
So the ADA access that we provide is the pathway to, from the parking lot on both sides, and then also provide access to the council chambers through those ADA doors. The ADA access for the restrooms in the lobby, the restrooms are ADA compliant, but there are no doors that require an automated access to that. The doors are acceptable, but they're not automated in terms of for ADA access.
Okay.
But they meet all the code requirements for, with width and so on and so, but they don't have automatic access doors for those.
Are we thinking about that in the future since we've done it to other doors?
Well, we can certainly do that. We can come up with that program. But the reason why we chose those doors right there is because on our current program, coming in from the only ADA access that you have to City Hall is through the doors in the parking lot. And so if you provide access to the two doors coming into the City Hall on that side of the building, but you can't get access to the door in the center, it defeats the purpose. So having this section completes the path through, and if we want to consider getting ADA access doors for the next cycle, we can certainly do that.
Right. I don't see any further questions, so I will open the public hearing and ask for requests to speak on this item.
There are no requests to speak cards, Madam Mayor.
All right, so no need for rebuttal, so we'll close the public hearing and we'll bring it back to council for their deliberations.
I move adoption of the item.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Robles, second by Councilmember Allen?
Sure.
Is that who said that?
That's it. I second.
All right, please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with council members Allen, Hussey, and Robles voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Wilson voting yes, and Mayor McNabo voting yes.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on to our new business, since we have no unfinished business. Item number 9 in your agenda is the award of $2,000 in community benefit funds to the Sheriff Central Station Explorer Post 508. So for our community benefits fund, I like that. You just assume it. That's good. That's great. I know. I was a little unclear on whether you were coming up or not. I apologize for that. So do we have Cynthia Fortune, Assistant City Manager, who will give us the staff report for this?
Yes, Mayor, you do. But as you can see, the enthusiasm shown by the Sheriff's
I like that.
Central Station and Deputy is amazing.
Absolutely.
So, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Cynthia Fortune with the City Manager's Office. Before you is a staff report where the Explorer program Post 508 submitted an application. The staff report supports goal number 1, ensuring our fiscal viability through the continuous review of grant applications received, and goal number 4, to develop and implement successful partnerships through productive collaboration with community youth programs. The Sheriff's Central Station Explorer program supporting Grand Terrace youth in Post 508, which includes the Police Explorer competition, which will occur in June 2020. And the 4 young youth that you have in complete uniform are the ones that are going to go to this competition in June. Now, the funds, the way we have it, because they are requesting for the full amount of $2,000, will support 1 Grand Terrace youth in the Explorer program for a whole year, and that is what we're giving these funding is for. In addition, Deputy Alcala is our school resources officer. So he's actually our officer that is assigned to our Grand Terrace High School. And that's where he likes to try to recruit his future explorers. And the purpose of the program is to educate, mentor, and enhance our youth's social, communication, decision-making, and observation skills. They are requesting, again, the amount of $2,000 to support their program. Our current balance as of the end of January is $7,000. Should this grant application be approved, it will bring down our balance to $5,000. That completes my report. As you can see, Deputy Alcala and the 4 explorers will be more than happy to say a few words to City Council.
Oh, we would certainly like to hear from you. Please come forward.
Hi, good evening, City Council. Thank you. Sorry, we jumped the gun a little early. Thank you so much for having us here. Again, I'm Deputy Anthony Alcala, Deputy Sheriff for Central Station, currently assigned as the School Resource Officer for all the school sites here in Grand Terrace. Our program is very humbled to be here tonight. Like Cynthia said, these are 4 of our explorers who are going to be competing in this competition in June, which is actually in Las Vegas this year, held by Metropolitan Police Department out there. We have 8 total going. The other 4 obviously cannot be here tonight. And we actually have 19 explorers total in our program. This grant will help us fund for more of us to go. We registered for 8 for this particular competition. But like I said, we do have 19 explorers in our program, ranging from the ages of 14 to 20 and a half. And it's unfortunate that we can't take all 19 to competitions like this. And that's just based on our program being a nonprofit organization through the department. And realistically, the areas that our families come from and where our youth comes from, low income, middle income class homes, which is unfortunate for us. But grants like this help us pay for uniforms, gear, food costs, hotel costs, travel costs, registration costs when we go to these competitions. One of our explorers is here tonight who actually attends Grand Terrace High School, Jada Farah, and I would like her to come up and say a few words if that's okay with the council.
Please.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is Jada Farah. First and foremost, I want to express my appreciation to the Grand Terrace City Council. I'm 16 years old, currently a junior at Grand Terrace High School, and an explorer at Central Station. I have been a resident of Grand Terrace for most of my life. I attended Terrace View Elementary, Terrace Hills, and I am currently a junior, as I said. I'm currently involved in girls varsity soccer, sports medicine, and ASB. These activities and clubs help me apply teamwork and leadership as a sheriff explorer. Being an explorer has taught me discipline along with structure, as well as strengthened my confidence as approaching many different situations that occur at school and within my community. Going on ride-alongs as a sheriff explorer has opened my eyes to the city, and I'm thankful that I have grown up in a safe and clean, friendly community. The grant will help fund the nonprofit Explore program, giving us the opportunity to compete at the XCon competition this June. We appreciate you and thank you. Be safe.
Thank you very much. Does council have questions at this time? Okay.
Well,
Councilmember Allen.
thank you, Mayor. So I would like to ask the deputy, so these are the 4 that will be attending?
Yes, 4 out of the 8, yes.
And when is the competition?
In June, first weekend of June.
Okay, and you know what I think would be really great is if whenever it's all over with and you guys bring home the trophy, if you can bring it back to the council chamber.
Absolutely.
And show it off to us a little bit, okay? Maybe some pictures would work?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. You got it.
All right, any further questions? Oh, here we go. Councilmember Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Deputy, for taking the time for our youth. My son's also in law enforcement, and he's a deputy sheriff, and then he went Riverside PD. But I was reading the competition, so you have to compete the explorers in various scenarios, high-risk traffic stops.
Yes, sir.
Building searches, domestic violence situations, active shooter incidents, crime scene investigation. Anything else that they're going to be doing there besides? I mean, that's a lot of stuff to do in one day anyway.
It is. They have a scenario that consists of officer down rescue. So they get dispatched to a call for service regarding a downed officer who was at a traffic stop or some kind of call for service themselves. And their job is to respond to that call, rescue the officer from the threat, and just assist the situation that way.
All right, great. And the explorers, how long have they been in the program?
Just want to say?
I'm an Explorer Zuni. I've been in the Explorer program for about 7 months now.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I am Explorer Cubias, and I've been an Explorer for about 1.5 years now.
I'm Explorer Lopez. I have been an Explorer now this will be my 2nd year.
And they all want to pursue a career in law enforcement?
I hope so. Yes, sir.
Well, good luck and Godspeed. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Councilmember Robles?
Yes, my grandson was in the Explorers, and he was going to go to last year's competition, but just for my peers, so they know that his paternal grandfather passed away, so he did not participate. And I think you guys were going to come back and tell the council how it went, and I don't know if that happened or not, so I just want to make sure that you let them know how it went this time around.
Yes, and I apologize for that. I do remember us planning on that, but this time for sure, we will definitely come back.
All right, thank you. Are there any requests to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, so we'll bring it back to council for consideration of a motion. Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Wilson, second by Councilmember Hussey. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with council members Allen, Hussey, and Robles voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Wilson voting yes, and Mayor McNabo voting yes.
All right. We look forward to hearing from you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, City Council. Thank you.
All right, our next item is the Historical and Cultural Activities Benefits Fund, Historical and Cultural Activities Committee appointment and adopt a resolution returning the regular member positions to 7.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Deborah Thomas, City Clerk's Office. The item before you is the Historical and Cultural Activities Committee appointment and adopting a resolution returning the regular member positions back to 7. At the June 25th, 2013 City Council meeting, the committee had requested that council add a regular member position with a term continuing to June 30th, 2016, with 4-year term increments beginning July 1st, 2016, which increased the committee's regular membership to the current 8 positions today. Also, at the June 25th, 2013 regular meeting, council had directed staff to prepare a resolution adding that additional regular member position, which was adopted at the council's July 9th, 2013 regular meeting. In November of 2017, committee member Susan Robles had resigned her position due to a relocation out of the area. And on November 4th, 2019, Chairman Pauline Grant had to resign her position also due to a relocation out of the area. The City Clerk's Office had posted the vacancy and announced the application process was closed on February 18th, 2020. And as a result, we received 1 application, which has been attached to your staff report for review. The applicant's name is Lynn Smith, and she is here in the chamber to be introduced and have questions asked if need be. And this vacancy left the vacancy left the need to appoint a new committee member. However, the remainder of the term is only for 4 months, with the new 4-year term beginning July 1st, 2020. However, the Historical and Cultural Committee has a little bit different way of appointing it, and it's by letter only, and that was from past history. Additionally, it is the desire of the committee to return to its original 7-member committee, and this having an odd number will help prevent a tie vote. At this time, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt a resolution reducing the regular member positions of the Historical and Cultural Activities Committee from 8 to 7 and appoint Lynn Smith to fill the vacancy of the unexpired term continuing to June 30th, 2020. That's the end of my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. Do we have any questions from staff? Questions of staff from council? All right, seeing none. Any requests to speak on this item?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, so we'll bring it back to council for consideration of a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'll move the motion to adopt a resolution and appoint Lynn Smith to fill the unexpired regular term continuing to June 30, 2020.
I second the motion.
All right, motion by Councilmember Allen, second by Councilmember Robles. Please vote.
Motion passes unanimously with council members Allen and Hussey and Robles voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem voting yes, and the mayor voting yes.
All right, thank you. So that leaves one more item, which is item 11, which is appointment of Planning Commission member to fill Planning Commission vacancy. Madam City Clerk.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, Deborah Thomas, City Clerk's Office. The item before you is the appointment of the Planning Commission member to fill the Planning Commission vacancy. The recommendation is to conduct interviews and take the following action. Appoint one person to the Planning Commission to fill the vacancy left by former chairman with the term expiring on June 30th, 2020. The Planning Commission is a 5-member board that was appointed by the City Council and serves at the pleasure of the City Council for 4-year terms. These terms alternate so that every 2 years, at least 2 appointments are set to expire. On December 12, 2019, former Planning Commissioner Chairman Tom Comstock announced his resignation at the scheduled Planning Commission meeting, which resulted in a vacancy to the 5-member board. On December 19, 2019, the City Clerk advertised the vacancy and announced that the application process was opened beginning December 20th, 2019, and closed on February 5th, 2020. The vacancy notice was dispersed through a press release, posted on the city's website, posted in the city's reader board, and advertised in the city's adjudicated newspaper, City News Group. As a result, 5 applications were received, which have been attached to your staff report. However, of those 5, 1 application from Jeremy Rivera was requested to be rescinded, and as of this moment, I do not see where Mr. Cranston Warren has arrived this evening for interview. Therefore, at this time, it is staff's recommendation, the Planning Commission, this term is set to serve for 4 months through June 30th, 2020, with reapplication process beginning July 1st, 2020. At this time, staff is recommending that the City Council conduct its interview process and appoint an applicant to the Planning Commission for the remainder of the term ending June 30th, 2020. That's the end of my staff report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Thomas. So we have an outline here that would state that the council will pull names for order of applicant interviews, and that the first applicant will be interviewed. That person will remain in the chambers, and the other 2 will go with our director, Steve Weiss, to another area. These applicants have already been interviewed. As applicants are interviewed, they will remain in the chamber. So we have 6 questions in front of us. We have 2 sets of questions. We have 5 yes and no questions, and then we have 6 questions that are open-ended. And the suggestion is that the 5 questions will be asked, and council will choose amongst themselves from the 6 questions listed, which ones they would like to ask. It's suggested that time allowed for each applicant to respond be 1 minute to just give an overall introductory statement, 2 minutes for each council question, and 1 minute for applicant closing statement. And then upon completion of all applicant interviews, the council will move to appoint a new planning commissioner. Now, of this list of 5 questions that are yes or no, I'm going to ask my colleagues if you will be in agreement that perhaps we have the city attorney ask those 5 yes or no questions of the applicants prior to the rest of the interview. Mr. City Attorney, what would you suggest?
The suggestion I would make, Madam Mayor, is since the first 5 questions that I'll be asking are yes/no questions, to avoid the repetition of going through it each time, is we can ask each of the applicants to go up to the podium. I'll read each question, ask them yes or no, and then once we get through that process, we can escort 2 of them out, and then the council could go through the more in-depth questions with each of them individually.
Okay. Is that acceptable to everyone? Okay. And so is there, of the 6 questions, Councilmember Allen?
Is that because if one of the answers to the 5 were to be no?
If one of the answers were no, then that would be something that we'd have to question a little further, and that potentially could disqualify them.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so of the 6 questions, shall we decide who will ask which ones at this time? Or if you'd like to choose your own question? Councilmember Allen?
I'd like to ask question number 3. Are we going to ask one each? I'd like to ask question number 3.
Is that okay with everyone? Okay. Councilmember Robles, which question would you like to ask?
Take number 6.
Mayor Pro Tem? You have your own question?
I've
Yeah,
got question number 7.
Okay, question number 7. Okay, and Councilmember Hussey, which one would you like? Question 1, okay. All right, so I will ask question number 2 then. All right, Madam City Clerk, do you have the list of the applicants, please? Brian Phelps will be applicant number 1. No, come back. I thought you were going to have somebody else choose one.
Aaron Burian.
Yeah.
David Alanese will be applicant number 3. All right, if the applicants will come forward, please, to the lectern. And Mr. City Attorney, if you would, please.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'll ask you yes or no questions. If you answer no, can you also raise your hand? Okay. So the first question, I'm going to go a little out of order. The first question is, are you available to meet the Planning Commission required attendance, which is the required 2 minimum meetings per month?
Yes.
Okay, all have acknowledged yes. Second question, are you willing to commit to the training requirements of the Planning Commission, which includes state mandated training and other training as required by the City Council?
Yes.
All have said yes. Question number 3, are you able to commit to technical training that may require you to travel at least once a year? For example, this year, the League of California Cities is doing a Planning Commission conference up in Sacramento. So would that be a yes or no question?
Yes.
All have acknowledged yes. Number 4, do you understand that the Planning Commission is not an independent governing body, but rather a body that reports to and is subject to the authority granted to it by the City Council? For example, the Planning Commission is an advisory body to the City Council on matters of policy and a quasi-judicial body on certain land use decisions with appeal rights to the City Council. Yes or no?
Yes.
All applicants have said yes. And finally, number 5, are you aware that as a member of the Planning Commission, your ability to make public comments may be limited because some land use items may be referred to the Planning Commission? And public comments are not only verbally at a meeting, but also on social media, for example. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no?
Yes.
All have said yes. Madam Mayor, all applicants have said yes to all 5 questions.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. All right, so our first applicant is Brian Phelps, and so our other 2 applicants will go with Mr. Weiss here, and he will make you comfortable while you wait. Okay, Mr. Phelps, as I mentioned before, there will be a minute for an introductory statement, then each of us will ask a question. You will have 2 minutes for each of those questions. And then you will have 1 minute to make a closing statement or a summary statement if you'd like.
Okay.
All right? So if you would please, welcome and start with your introductory statement.
Sure. Well, my name is Brian Phelps, and I've grown up in Grand Terrace and consider this my hometown. I've always been someone who has volunteered for anything that I could contribute to. I was a former planning commissioner for this fine city, and I am now currently served as the chairman of the Parks and Recreation Committee. I served as the chairman for the Ad Hoc Traffic Committee. I was a member of the Ad Hoc Fireworks Committee representing the Grand Terrace Little League, as well as a coach and a vice president for that league. I was a shop steward for the Teamsters, representing about 200 of our Stater Brothers drivers. I am a member of the Grand Terrace Days Planning Committee, and I have received training for the Planning Commission, which I attended with the current mayor. I am familiar with the general plan and worked with the planning director during my past duty as a planning commissioner to establish a sustainability element for the general plan.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. So we'll go through our questions now. We'll begin with question number 1, Councilmember Hussey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Phelps, for being here. It says, please explain your interest in serving on the Planning Commission and how your background will benefit the commission and the community.
I have always loved serving my city and the satisfaction that serving brings. And as a former planning commissioner and as someone who has grown up in this city, I understand the culture and the history of our fine city, and I'm invested in seeing it continue to thrive.
Thank you.
All right. As a planning commissioner, what is your role in implementing the city's 2030 vision?
Sure. My role in implementing the 2030 vision plan is to make sure all projects coming before me meet the goals of the 2030 vision plan. The project needs to be fiscally viable. It needs to maintain the public safety. It needs to promote our economic development. And as a commissioner, I need to encourage successful partnerships with public and private agencies. And as a commissioner, I need to promote transparency, which I strongly support, and engage the public as much as possible to ascertain the public's needs.
Thank you. Councilmember Allen.
Do you feel as a citizen of the community that you are able to provide objective recommendations on various land use applications and other issues? What
Yes,
will, and it's a two-part question. What will you use as your guide in decision-making? What will you use as your guide in decision-making?
The general plan is and its accompanying documents, like the Barton Road specific plan, are the guides used to make those decisions, as well as guidance from the planning staff and my understanding of the culture and history of the city, and the public input gathered during a project's public presentation. I have always been an impartial decision maker and weighing the facts and merits of any argument to better understand and guide me to an honest and fair decision.
Thank you. Councilmember Robles.
Please identify what you think are some of the key development issues facing Grand Terrace in the next 5 to 10 years.
Sure. The Lewis Group project, or the freeway frontage area along Commerce Way, is going to be a very important to our city, bringing in much needed tax base, and if done right, could be a huge benefit to our community. The Blue Mountain Trailhead project, which will bring much needed access to a natural landmark and resource for our recreation in our city. And the continuation of the Barton Road specific plan to improve our main thoroughfare, and also realizing the goals of the 2030 vision plan.
Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem Wilson.
Mr. Phelps, you've done your homework well.
I tried.
What special abilities, professional, academic, or life experience make you feel that you qualify to serve on the Planning Commission?
Well, my father was a civil engineer for the city of Redlands for many years, and obviously I gained a little bit of experience and knowledge through him for what he was doing. The main thing you need as a planning commissioner is knowing the people of the city and what the people of the city really want, what they need, what they desire in their cities. And being able to translate that into following the general plan so that it follows our laws and our rules and our plan for the future. And being their voice to make sure those things happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if you would, please take a minute for a closing statement.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to come here today and to interview for the Planning Commission seat. It gives me great joy to serve my community, and I have always received great satisfaction from serving a city I truly love. I know that with patience and hard work, this city can be even better. We have come so far already from where the city started at its incorporation in 1978, and I've had the pleasure of watching it through my childhood grow to what it has become, and I can envision where it is going, and that vision looks wonderful and prosperous.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. How do I say your last name?
Burian. First name is Aaron.
Aaron Burian. Mr. Burian, thank you for being here tonight. If you would, we're going to ask you to give a minute for an introductory statement. Then each of us will ask you a question. You'll have 2 minutes for each of those answers. And then you'll have a minute to give us a summary statement at the end.
Okay.
So if you would just begin with your introductory statement at this time.
Sure. My name is Aaron Burian. My wife Claudia and I purchased a house here in 2018, got married, and we decided this was the best place for us to settle. And we bought an acre, so we've been busy up until now, wondering what we could do to help the community, and this came up, and we decided this would be a perfect opportunity to start. So my quick background is that I am a partner at an engineering firm in Redlands, and we specialize mainly in school construction, and we've done some work for Colton Joint Unified, and in this city, we were the city engineers for, the engineers for the high school when it was built. And that's about all I can think of. I just think my background in engineering would be a strength for the Planning Commission, and it would give me a lot of experience also in this type of activity, which I've never had any experience in.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. So we will start our questions, and we will begin with Councilmember Hussey.
Hello, Aaron. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
My question is pretty much what you just, when you explained, but that's, please explain their interest in serving in the Planning Commission and how your background will benefit the commission and the community.
I have nearly 20 years of experience in engineering, sort of unrelated to development on the planning end, but I have worked with developers, adjacent developers as we develop school sites. So I feel that I bring a good balance of understanding of the needs of all aspects of the engineering process and the development process. I feel that 20 years of experience of that, plus my recent ownership in the company, gives me a good insight as to both the needs of the community and of the developers together, and it's important to understand both sides of that.
All right, thank you.
All right, Mr. Burian, as a planning commissioner, what is your role in implementing the city's 2030 vision plan?
First and foremost, I think my main role would be to apply the zoning codes and fully understand those in any scenario, in any application.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Allen.
Hey, Mr. Burian. My question is a two-part one, but it's one question. Do you feel as a citizen of the community that you are able to provide objective recommendations on various land use applications and other issues? And what will you use as your guide in decision-making?
Again, I think the basis for any of this would be zoning codes, and adhering to those, I think, are very important. Can you repeat the first part of the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. It's kind of a yes or no. Do you feel as a citizen of the community that you're able to provide objective recommendations on various land use applications and other issues?
Absolutely, because I've seen every aspect of it from the development side. So yes, I could easily.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Robles.
Please identify what you think are some of the key development issues facing Grand Terrace in the next 5 to 10 years.
Key development issues. Earlier, I heard some mention of streets. I've noticed a lot of street issues in this town. Those being addressed as a part of development, I think, is a positive. I seem to want to answer the question from the perspective of what would I do to improve what I see, but I do see a lot of unused space in the downtown area that I think there could be some benefits to supporting development for.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Wilson.
Thank you. So far as special abilities, what professional, academic, or life experience do you carry with you in your toolkit to qualify you to serve in this advisory capacity?
I would say in that sense, it would be my background in the engineering and development profession, starting as a draftsman at my firm nearly 20 years ago and working my way up to now being an owner of the company. My ability to achieve that and our past experience of many hundreds of projects that we've done, I feel that gives me a lot of background in the processes and the consequences of decisions that are made related to development.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Burrian, if you would, you have 1 minute to summarize.
Well, to me, this is a very exciting opportunity to give back to the community and grow myself, because any type of public service is not something I'm familiar with, and I really think it would benefit me, and my expertise in the area could benefit the city as well. And I think that's about it.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate you being here,
Thank
and we will move to our next applicant. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Alanis. We will give you 1 minute for your introductory statement, and then each of the council members will have a question for you. You will have 2 minutes to answer each of those questions, and then at the end, you will have 1 minute for a summary statement. So if you would, please begin with your introductory statement.
Okay, thank you guys very much for this evening. Thank you for taking the time. Little background. My father, he grew up in Colton. One of the best decisions I'm thankful he made was him and my mother moved to Grand Terrace in 1979, where they raised me and my siblings until I was about 27. I moved to Kauai to help open up the Costco there after I graduated from college. As beautiful as it was, I knew Grand Terrace would always be the place I want to raise my kids. I want to raise a family, and I'm glad I moved back. Was able to buy a house in 2010 with my wife, where we're now raising our 3 kids. I love this town. I love the feeling it has, the small town vibe. I want to be able to serve. Right now, I'm a youth soccer coach. My wife's a member of the board, and I'm just looking for another opportunity to help serve this community.
Great, thank you. So we'll start with our questions. Councilmember Hussey.
Hello, David. Please explain your interest in serving on the Planning Commission and how your background will benefit the commission and the community.
So I have a background in environmental health. Right now I'm working as a supervisor for the Department of Public Health for the county, for the land use protection program. We do a lot with well permitting, septic permitting, things like that. It's helped me do my due diligence, be a hard worker, learn where to find different contacts, and just be able to, we work closely with our planning department. Learned a lot about general plans, specific plans, departmental conditions of approval. And then again, my background basically is with the environmental health, so bring a lot of that to the table. Again, I'm a hard worker, dedicated, able to make informed decisions based upon my knowledge and the things I've learned in the past.
Thank you.
As a planning commissioner, what is your role in implementing the city's 2030 vision plan?
It definitely would be my goal to achieve goal number 3. I think it's right in the Planning Commission's wheelhouse. Find out, will this support economic development? Are we able to maintain this business? We're not looking for that quick fix, quick money. I want to see businesses that will maintain and sustain here. It's sad enough that there's enough closed signs in the buildings around town. So I want to make sure anything we do choose or anything we approve is something that will be viable, something that will help keep that small town feeling, but at the same time help the city grow. Again, with the small town vibe, unfortunately, it comes down to a lot of small resources. The city's small, there's not much room to grow, but if we can be exact and concise in the projects that we do approve, help grow and keep the city as beautiful as it is right now, and bring in more revenue for our residents in the community.
Thank you. Councilmember Allen.
Thanks for being here, Mr. Alanis.
Thank you.
Do you feel as a citizen of the community that you are able to provide objective recommendations on various land use applications and other issues, and what will you use as your guide in that decision making?
I would use definitely the general plan would be my guide. The 2030 vision for the city would be another guide I'd use. One, with the project, does it fulfill goal number 2, maintaining public safety? Does it fulfill goal number 3, to promote economic development? Also, using my due diligence, asking the right questions, not just the right questions, but the right questions the right way. When I was a field inspector, you learn to read people, know what they're really saying, not just what they're saying. And so I'd be able to use that to be an active listener when staff recommends projects, and then applicants bring them to the commission hearings. Also, with environmental health, I've been able to make a lot of good contacts, reliable sources that I can ask questions to, find answers, and also do my own research to make sure the project does fit what we all want to see as part of our 2030 vision plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Robles.
Please identify what you think are some of the key development issues facing Grand Terrace in the next 5 to 10 years.
Definitely keeping and maintaining the quality of life. I love this city. It's beautiful. I love the feel. We need to keep up with the technology and the times. Definitely use our resources appropriately. Also, make sure we're approving businesses that will stay and maintain, so we don't have to face any more closures. How are we going to attract the next Bargain Outlet? How are we going to attract the next Kaz Ramen? Things that people will be attracted to. We do have big developments coming up. Not many more residents are able to move to Grand Terrace due to its size, but Spring Mountain Ranch has a bunch of new residents that they come here. They come to ICM all the time at our Stater Brothers. I see all those people, all my friends that used to live in Grand Terrace that moved there. Unfortunately, they don't live in Grand Terrace. That's their fault, but they're able to, they're coming here, they're playing soccer here, they're shopping here, they're using our resources, so let's bring stuff that will attract them here to spend their money here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilson.
What special abilities do you have, professional, academic, or life experience, that qualify you to serve in this advisory capacity?
This is your question number 7, sir. I'm intelligent. I use my resources. Part of my job is being right. Things we do require of our customers, unfortunately, it can have a big burden upon them. So if we're making a decision that's to protect public health, I want to be right about that. I want to make sure I've read code, I research regulations. If it's a new situation, that I get support from other agencies that have dealt with this type of problem. So being resourceful by using my resources, by using my social contacts, my network that I've been able to develop over the past years. Again, being an active listener, and just being patient, being able to listen to what people are saying. Again, not just how they're saying it, but what exactly are they saying, to be able to fully research and listen and see if that project, whatever makes sense for, again, to fulfill our 2030 vision plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Albanese, at this time you have a minute to summarize and maybe tell us something that we didn't ask you.
You didn't ask me. Not much. Again, thank you guys. I appreciate you having me this evening. I really appreciate your time. I know with the background I have a lot to offer the commission and my ability to serve this community. It's not just about me, it's about future generations. I was fortunate to be raised here. My kids are going to be fortunate to raise here. I'm hoping that their kids will have that same opportunity. Grand Terrace is a striving community, and I want to make sure it stays that way. I definitely want to do my part to help with that. Again, thank you guys for your consideration. I hope you do choose me. I know I'll work my hardest I can, and you won't be let down.
All right, thank you, Mr. Albanese.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you to all of our applicants tonight. I know this is not an easy process to go through, to stand up and answer questions in front of public like this. It's very difficult, so I appreciate not only putting your application in, but be willing to go through this process. And at this time, I'll ask if there are any requests to speak on this particular subject.
No, Madam Mayor.
All right, so I'll bring it back to council, and so what we need to do is, we have 3 applicants, we have 1 seat, so we need to choose 1 person to fill that. Any particular comments? I have Mayor Pro Tem, you have a comment you would like to make?
No, I wanted to make a
I'd
motion.
like to make a nomination. I'd like to nominate Brian Phelps as our planning commissioner.
Okay. Councilmember Robles?
I'd like to nominate David Albanese.
All right, I'd like to second David Albanese.
I'd like to second Brian Phelps, please.
All right, Councilmember Allen?
So I think I heard a motion, then an alternate motion, is that correct? And then I think, then what happens, alternate motion first?
Right, so the Brian Phelps received the second, so we will vote on.
No, he received the first, and then David Albanese received the second.
Mr. City Attorney, which one do we vote on first?
Well, usually when you nominate, we identify those who are going to be nominated.
Right.
So my first question is there a nomination for the 3rd person? If not,
Okay.
I would toss that person out. No, I don't mean like that, but we would not consider that person. So then we would move forward with a vote for the first nomination.
Okay, so that was Brian Phelps?
Yes.
Even though he didn't have a second?
He did not have a second?
Well,
Yeah, that's
David
correct.
Albanese had a second before Brian Phelps had a
Yes, so
second.
then, I'm sorry, that's correct. If David Albanese got the first second, that goes first.
Okay, so we vote for that first. Was there a Councilmember Allen, did you want to make a motion for Mr. Burren?
No, I was only commenting on the procedure of motions.
Okay, so we will vote first for David Albanese. There was a motion by Councilmember Robles and a second by myself, Darcy McNabo. Please vote.
Motion passes with council members Allen and Robles voting yes, Mayor McNabo voting yes, Mayor Pro Tem Wilson votes no, and Councilmember Bahusty votes no.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. So that means Mr. Albanese is our appointed planning commissioner. Congratulations, Mr. Albanese. And again, thank you to Mr. Phelps and Mr. Burren, and I hope you continue to stay involved, but congratulations, Mr. Albanese. Councilmember Allen?
So my only question is this appointment through June only? And then what's the procedure then?
Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, the term is only through June 30th, and staff will be renoticing the vacancy for the new seat prior to July 1st. Is that my understanding, City Clerk?
Yes, sir. All right,
Thank you.
so you have 4 months? You try us out, we'll try you out, see how it goes. All right, well, again, thank you to everybody who has taken part in this. And so we'll move on to item number I, which is request for future agenda items by council. We have none, so City Manager Communications, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to remind the council and the citizens that the mayor's State of the City address will occur on February 27th, and that would be this Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Vista Blue Mountain, which is formerly the Brookdale facility at 22325 Barton Road. You can still RSVP, but it's filling up pretty fast. We're expecting about 100 people at least. Also wanted to remind the community that there's a Community Day Planning Committee that's currently meeting. Community Day this year is June 6th from 3 to 9 p.m. at Richard Rollins Park. Join the Planning Committee meeting. We meet Thursday, March 12th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 in the community room at City Hall. Also, the Walk on Blue Mountains coming up Saturday, March 7th at 8 a.m. So please join us for this annual walk, and we expect to have a really good turnout and hopefully good weather, and we look forward to seeing you there. That concludes my comments, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Next item on the agenda is closed session. We do not have a closed session, so we will adjourn. City Council will be closed in memory of Grand Terrace resident Edna Best. The next regular City Council meeting will be held on Tuesday, March 10th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Any request to have an item placed on future agenda item must be made in writing and submitted to the City Clerk's office, and the request will be processed in accordance with council procedure. At this time, we are adjourned.